Barry, we're in here in the Gary Purdom suite for the sort of a catch up. Sort of 6 months into the role now. We haven't really had an opportunity to catch up since you've come on board. We're going to talk a few things. Obviously, the situation that the club found itself in when you come on board. What sort of the situation is with that now. We've had the IMG Gradings in sort of the last few days as well, so we're going to get a thoughts on that and what the club sort of need to do moving forward to try and improve that grade, because obviously it's only initially an indicative grade. No sort of impact on that, but in the next 12 months, the landscape of rugby league could really change with these IMG gradings. So we're going to have a talk about that as well. We'll also have a look about, obviously, this season on the field as well, get your thoughts on that. Obviously, it was a difficult campaign injury-wise for Jonty's side and towards the end of that, and really struggled with players towards the end of the season. So we'll sort of cover everything. But you're 6 months into the role. How's them nights been? How's them sleepless nights been, I imagine, over the last 6 months?
Quite frequent. I think you only sleep at nights after you've been exhausted from doing these 14-hour days. It's not just me. There's a lot of people working hard behind the scenes at this club. Hopefully next season we'll see a big change. But that being said, we still haven't closed this season out yet. So there's still a lot of work to do.
You mentioned there's still a lot of work to do. Obviously, as you mentioned, you've been on board for around about 6 months now. What did you find when you come into Whitehaven Rugby League six months ago? 6
months ago, when I first came in, I don't know whether they eased me in gently. I thought everything was all right. I thought all we had to do was improvements around the ground to bring us up to standard, make it a nicer place for everybody to come. Go around, get a few sponsors to come in for our match day in the Gary Purdom suite. Because I think once people's actually been in the Gary Purdom suite for one of those events, I think you get repeat custom. I just think people need to dip their toes in the water and, come and have a look. Come and have a look what everybody's doing. The place is always laid out beautiful. The food is absolutely fantastic. Kath and them do a super job in here. Our ground team, I've been really impressed. There's fellas come down here 5 days, 6 days a week. They come down every morning. They're down before 8:30. They don't leave till 12. The ground looks absolutely fantastic. And we've had compliments from the council to say it's the best they've ever seen it down here. There's very few issues with the ground at the moment. When you touched on IMG. I think we had a perception of what we thought everybody was looking for. Filled out all the questionnaires and everything. Got a few comments back where they wanted more information, but we're told we had until the 31st for that. So obviously that can't have been part of IMG grades if you get your grade on the Wednesday, but you've got until a week on the Wednesday to finish answering all the questions. So hopefully this next 12 months we know what it is they're looking for, or we'll get a better angle on it in discussion with the RFL. But I think the biggest trouble's going to be with this IMG grading. You've got Super League clubs who get 91% of the money that's raised through the RFL, and they can do what they want with their grounds for when you get 91% of it between 12 clubs. The rest of us are all fighting for scraps at 9%, but it's not equally shared. It's pro rata for teams at the top, the ones who are closer to being Super League. Fans make a massive difference down at this ground. I know people keep saying you can't come back to fans, but it is a fan sport. It's the fans that generate the income for us, and when there's no games, it's still those fans that you're looking for just to pop in every now and then, have a pint at the bar, a chat. This club needs to turn over. We're no different to your little village pubs that you keep seeing all disappearing. When the sun's here and all the weather's here, you get a tourist trade. When we've got games, we get visitors. When there's nothing going on down at this club rugby-wise, we still need some passing trade. It's as simple as that.
And we know the club have tried with previous events. Unfortunately, there was a recent event that had to be cancelled, and we've seen an odd comment on social media about it's not a big name. There was and no disrespect to Steve Kingdon. Obviously, it's before my time, but there's obviously there's a scope there. A few people have mentioned, the fans have mentioned, of bringing in ex-rugby league personalities, but we seen earlier in the start, actually right at the start of this year, before you come into the club, we had Matty Pete, Sean O'Loughlin and Tommy Lurlaway come into the club, and it was a free event, and the JJ McEwen bar wasn't full. You need events like that, even, you know, maybe when we did these paid events, but when you've got a free event there, you definitely need fans to try and come to take advantage and come and see, you know, whether it's them Wigan legends in O'Loughlin or Lurlaway, or whether, you know, you get the big likes in of, I mean, we've seen people mention Adrian Morley, Barry McDermott, Paul Sculthorpe, whether you get, you know, other folk in, you need them sort of events to supplement what you're getting there on every other Sunday.
Yeah, we were very grateful for Matty and his backroom staff for to come up here and assist with the Chris Taylor testimonial events and what have you. When they give up their time for free, that's the time when, you know, we can actually make some money at the bar by getting people in here, having a pint, a relax, nice atmosphere, talking rugby off season. The thing is, when we get all these other people in, they don't always do it for free, and people out there, I just don't think they realise exactly how much they're commanding as a fee for to come out and sit and talk with you. So if we had to go out and pay £1,500, £2,000 and we don't get people through the door, then obviously this club has to pay that money, which was the case with Steve. Obviously Steve didn't want all the money, but we've paid him so much of his fee, which he's kindly offered. If we want him back, he'll deduct it from the next time. I must admit, I'd never heard of Steve Kingdon either, but when you go out to these places to see who's available to talk, he was one of the better speakers on the circuit. There was better feedback for Steve than there was from most people. So, you know, it's one of them things. We're just trying to raise the profile of this club. If people can see what we're doing, you know, just come down, spend a little bit of time, come down and help if you want. Just come down and get more involved.
We mentioned events. We're down here on Sunday afternoon, just before the Halloween party next door in the JJ McEwen bar for the kids. There's going to be a couple of events in here. We've got the tapas night that's going to be coming up soon. So that's something different that we haven't had down here before. And then there's the few Christmas events. There's the Mustangs, which I think is sort of tying up as a sort of like a fans meet-up that I know Sean Drinkwater and Simon Taylor are pushing hard. And then there's a couple of Christmas parties as well. The club's going to continue pushing them over social media, but there's only so much the club can do over social media. It's also word of mouth is a fantastic advertisement as well. Yeah,
it is. That's the thing about social media. It can be good and bad. We can put all our eggs in one basket, but if we're not reaching all the target audience, then we need to think of another way of doing it. The cancellation that we had, it's not just this club. There's other clubs. There's other ones getting cancelled at the Marchon Sports and Social Club and things like that. Other places, they're still running the events because they've maybe got a better funding, should we say, where they can afford not to look like it failed. We can't down here. Fortunately for us, we've got all the kids coming down. It doesn't make a lot of money for the club. It's purely just for the kids, and it's run on donations from, you know, various people. We've got Maxwell Flooring that's sponsoring us for our Christmas party. Anything that's left over from the Christmas party will be taken up to the hospital for the children's ward, but we'll want to take some of the kids that were here at the party with us as well, and everybody can get in on the photo, because at the end of the day, it's the kids that make it. We were well supported on all of our summer camps, 60-odd screaming kids having the meal next door. I don't mind admitting, tear in my eye seeing that many kids all enjoying themselves and such a buzz. And a big thank you to all the lads from the club who turned out in numbers, free of charge, for to assist us that day.
I want to look on, obviously we mentioned now about coming in, and I mentioned right at the start about some sleepless nights. I want to mention obviously the financial difficulties, and we always say they are well documented, because anything to do with Whitehaven Rugby League amongst the fan base is always well documented. But how bad was it? How far was it from them gates being closed?
The problem is there's certain people on the board think that we shouldn't be sharing all the information. With myself, I'm slightly different. I like to wear my heart on my sleeve. There's no back doors or anything like that. Earlier on in the season, I think it was something like £28,000. That was all we owed all these rumours about £300,000, £400,000, £500,000 being owned by the club, I wouldn't be having sleepless nights. I'd be on the end of West Pier there, making sign at Crossmare. That, unfortunately, in a very short period of time, and if you knew the finances of the club for PAYE and VAT, you only have to miss a few payments over 2 months and it skyrockets. When we made the statement in June, when I first came on board, it was 58,000. We've paid £29,000 of that back, and then HMRC have kindly dumped a load of interest on it. I don't exactly know what the percentage rate is, but it must be awfully high for the numbers that's been added on. We're sitting at 38,000. Now, that would be the envy of quite a lot of championship clubs, because I know we've had hundreds of thousands of pounds in debt for a lot of these clubs. We've got HMRC on our case the whole time with it, and that's maybe not a bad thing, because it keeps us on our toes. We're not missing any payments. We've just proposed a new payment plan with some more balloon payments on them, which sees us being debt-free with PAYE round about March, just in time for the start of the new financial year. And if people wonder what goes on in the club and financial things, if you just think if we didn't have to pay that extra £29,000 to date since June, we'd be sitting with £29,000 in the bank, or we'd have done a load more projects around the ground. So if we do exactly the same next year, we'll have all that money that we were paying to HMRC for to do other things. We had one sponsor this year, one main sponsor. Eternally grateful to LEL for the 3 years they've had with us, but they've no wish to continue. We've now got Otis on board. We have Stoke Engineering on board with them, and we have our lovely couple up in the Highlands there, Bounty Competitions. Bounty stepped in, gave us that cash injection. We cleared a lot, got us back on our footing. There is no doubt about it. Without Bounty being on board, we wouldn't be looking at talking with one another now. The locks would have been on the gates. It was as simple as that. I can't afford to fund that sort of money. I've put in what I can. Other directors are also putting in a lot more money than what you would expect people to do. It's all for the love of the club. All we're asking people to come down and we spend £20 and have yourself a few pints and a good night.
You've mentioned obviously Otis and Stoke coming on board. Obviously Otis, I know Alistair, he's a Whitehaven lad, not living locally anymore, but he's a Whitehaven lad, and you know he's decided to come on board along with his partners Stoke there as well. You mentioned Bounty coming in a real difficult time for the club and enabled this club to continue, not just continue going into next season, but continue getting through that 2023 season. Yes,
like I said, I can't thank Bounty enough, but Otis equally. We have a lovely package with Otis for to take us into 2024. They've been helping out as and when they can this year, but obviously there's been things at Otis where there's been takeovers and what have you, so that they haven't been in a position to go whole hog this season. So it was getting through to next season. There's light at the end of the tunnel, as they say, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes to plan. We have a good team. We attract better crowds down here. We can get some more maintenance done around the place, and bottom out this IMG, whatever it is they're wanting to improve on these grades. You've mentioned IMG. We'll move on to that now. Obviously, the club were ranked 32nd out of 35 professional clubs. It's not where anyone at the club want to be. No. But maybe an indicative idea of where the club has found itself in the last couple of seasons because of financial issues, that other things have maybe been sort of left to go by the wayside. But it can only hopefully move up from there. It's obviously in terms of the grading, and the club now know, considering what they've got back from that, what they need to do to improve that for when it does become an impact going into the 2025 season. Yeah, all I would say to the fans is that I wouldn't worry too much about the first round of IMG gradings. There's been people that are a lot further up the trail than we are complaining about it. I think we're in a lot better place than where that would actually suggest that we're at. I just think maybe some of the other clubs have got into it a bit more than we have. We've maybe been distracted with everything else that's going on, and with a new board, a lot of us haven't dealt with all this type of thing before. So maybe we're just not as smart at filling paperwork out as would suggest, because we've got great venue, big bar next door. We've got the Gary Purdom suite here. We've got the council saying that the ground's fantastic. Maybe only got 2 or 3 pointers that they want us to do, which it isn't a lot of money. It's just a bit of time and effort. So, yeah, I think we just need to smarten up on exactly what it is they're looking for and use the right language when we're filling out the paperwork.
We know for the last few seasons, sort of social media has had a big impact, or has had somewhat of an impact on the club's money that they get back in, the return of investment, as it's called. That's going to play more of a bigger part now on myself and Lee, who's standing over there behind the camera.
Yep.
We've tried to start getting more content out there, but it's social media is going to play a big part. So we always mention engage, like, share, small things like that could have a big impact on the IMG gradings, whether it's crazy or not. Yeah,
I've noticed that there's 1 or 2 of our supporters that have picked up on that, and they're always trying to promote it and share everything. As long as people remember to share it from the original post and not your mate's post that comes out, just tap on the 2010 website, go on and have a look. There's loads on there for you to see. Obviously, because you're putting it out there. You've mentioned Lee. Lee's now going to be our official photographer, so that he can follow us around and get himself into grounds and not be turned away.
So, but let's obviously moving forward with yet again with IMG. There's different areas to that. Obviously, I know you mentioned in the club statement that come out yourself and the other directors that you were a little bit disappointed in sort of the community work. Obviously, the foundation has been able to sort of kick back up again in the last sort of 12 months. Carol's had a big part in starting getting the lads back out to schools. You mentioned the summer camps. Yep. There's going to have to be more of a goal with that to try and improve that as well, because that's going to have a big impact. But trying to get, yet again, that can have an impact if you're getting out into schools. More people are aware of Whitehaven Rugby League, more people are aware, and it could hopefully translate to people coming through the gates.
Yeah, it's one of them things, Jordan. This year we had a sponsor came in that said they were going to do all the schools. Carol put a programme together, as she had been doing for Work It in Town, believe it or not, for a few seasons, with Jamie Doran coming into schools. We put all that together, got our players involved, put the players into schools. Obviously, we need to pay the players. And the sponsor, for whatever reason, walked away. So the club maintained that. So on top of paying back all the PAYE and arrears and the everyday costing and everything, and knowing that money was tight in the club, we've had to fund all the players going in and out of schools, and I think we've been hitting 4 schools a week, one each morning on a Wednesday, Thursday, and 1 each in the afternoon. I think towards the end there was 1 or 2 schools missed due to funding, which is inexcusable as far as we're concerned as a board. It was a lack of communication and things that were going on down here. This year we have gone out there and we've secured funding from 3 different places who are all paying for the schools, so we may even be doubling up on that and getting more of our new rugby stars that's coming in, going into the schools.
And that can only help, because obviously, we've seen, for example, I spoke to Steve Neal for Radio Cumbria, and he's mentioned they were able to put a season ticket, a physical season ticket in, I think it was 17,000 children's hands. Now, if you're going to all 17,000 turn up, you might have a little bit of a problem.
Oh, yes.
But like
a nice problem, though.
But like you say, it's that sort of token gesture that these players are, for example, I know Lucas Castle, Lachlan Lansky and Alex Bishop had a big part to play in that when they were, especially Bishop and Lockie, before they've departed. They had big parts and obviously going to that. And it's just that's something different for these kids who see rugby week in, week out. They see the Super League on TV, they see the NRL on TV, and it's just bringing rugby league in. It's not just making sure it's not just on TV.
Whichever way you look at it, Jordan, these are the future. Yeah. The kids that come down here and want to play the rugby, yes, they'll go and do all their amateur schooling and what have you at great clubs like Kells and Hensingham and the Brow, Egremont, But when you get up to that and somebody's wanting to make a career out of it, or you know, they're wanting to go to the next level and come to us as semi-professional. This club needs to be here for that. Same as Town needs to be there as well, and Barra. You know, Cumbria needs all of those teams. Really, we should all be in the same league. And I say that from a personal benefit, because we get bigger crowds. People come from nowhere when we play Workington Town. We get the biggest gates of the season here. So there are the supporters right there on our doorstep. Just need to get them in for all the other games as well, both us and Town.
Moving forward to 2024, Jonty's putting together, it seems, an exciting squad. There's still plenty of news to come over the next few weeks before pre-season gets underway in only sort of 4 to 5 weeks, which I'm sure is scary.
I only find out when everybody else does.
But there's only sort of 4 to 5 weeks to pre-season gets underway, which, considering the season's only been over 4 to 5 weeks, I imagine it's quite, you know, where that time's gone. But for 2024, what is the club's aims? We'll go on the field initially, because obviously I know with that, but what do the club need to achieve off the field as well to make sure that we are stronger moving forward? Yeah,
off the field, we need a bit of stability. This cash flow going from game to game last season, because whatever you make, everybody wants. We've trimmed our figures down, and Jonty is doing really well with the monies. Just one thing for those people out there that are not sure about budgets and what have you, because I certainly wasn't. The budget for us for last year was far more than what's being commented on. What's being commented on are just the contract money, which is what we pay out on a monthly basis over a 10-month period. The contracts don't include all of the things behind the scenes, like paying for house rent, the gas, electric and everything's all paid for our overseas players. So whatever money they get from this club, people might think it's not an awful lot to live on, but that's your money in your hand. The only thing you've got to do is feed yourself with it. Everything else at this club is all taken care of. We even provided a car, fully insured, road taxed, etc., for lads to run around on, because they need it to go into the schools and get to and from all these places where we're asking them to be. A lot more sponsorship this year. So on a monthly basis, the club will be getting a lot of the stuff paid for. So hopefully, if people come down and get through the gates, we end up with everything all covered and a little bit of money in our back pocket so that we can do the things around the ground. I've got to be careful when I say back pocket, because there are still a lot of people on social media think that that's where the money ends up at, but I can assure you it doesn't. It comes out the front pocket and doesn't go back in. Otis, they've got plans. I won't spoil it in case Otis want to make the big announcements, but we have got plans to help us down at this ground and make everything a lot cheaper for us to run, cut down on our running costs. So watch out for that one. I've no doubt you'll be involved in putting it out there, Jordan. And
obviously we mentioned on the field, the club needs to now start establishing itself as a regular championship side. We've got 3 consecutive seasons now in the championship. Obviously there was that magical season of 2021, that run towards the end of 2021 where the club ended in the playoffs. The last couple of seasons have been a little bit more nervy. The club's aim now, obviously, which would help with the IMG Gradings as well, going back to that, is if you become a sustainable, in the short term, mid-table championship club. Yes. So you then don't have to worry about coming to the end of the season, are we going to be playing championship, are we going to be playing League One? You know pretty much early doors that if we play to our capability, the Championship Rugby League is going to be here for the long term, and you can start building projects for that moving forward. I think if you look back on some of the interviews that you've had with Jonty, Jonty's of the same opinion as most of us on the board. On paper, we had a great side. They were all technically gifted. We've had a lot of injuries, but to only win, I think it was 1 game in the final 13 or something like that, and then have to play their heart and soul out against Toulouse, which 15 minutes to go, I honestly thought we could have had that game. But to keep that score down, that inevitably was as good as a win, because for the points difference, it kept us up there. If we'd have had Toulouse come here and put as many points on as they did last time, we would have been sitting in League One having the battle of their lives that they're having at the moment. So it's difficult to say where we're going to be. All the lads that you talk to, the individuals, they know the players that's coming in, and they obviously know them a lot better than I do.
and they say that, yeah, we're going to do things this season. If we can keep the injuries down, touch wood, and play to the potential that we can play to, then obviously by the end of 2024 season, we won't all be biting nails on somebody else's game at the end of the year.
Barry, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I know it's a busy afternoon. We've been sat here now for a good 20-25 minutes. Yep. Probably a little bit longer than I expected, but compliments to yourself for being as honest and open as you can be, and hopefully now moving forward we aren't talking about financial issues.
Well, I hope it dispels a lot of the rumours. I know I can't satisfy everybody's curiosity, but all I can say is if anybody wants to come down for a chat at the club and get an insight to what's actually going on down here and wants to be involved, come on down. Come and give us a shout.